It's $1,247. Not your savings. Your entire balance. You check it at 11:43 p.m., lying on a secondhand mattress bought from someone on Facebook Marketplace. You check it again a minute later, hoping somehow the number changed. It didn't. You've got $31,000 in student loans, another $4,200 sitting on a credit card, and a paycheck arriving Friday that's already gone before it lands. You're 23 years old. You keep telling yourself you're not behind. But every trip to the grocery store feels like a negotiation with reality. You put the olive oil back. Choose the cheaper cereal. Keep sharing a streaming password with someone you barely even talk to anymore, because canceling it feels like losing. This is what zero actually feels like. Not dramatic, not cinematic, just a quiet, constant pressure humming underneath every decision you make. Nobody talks about money at this level, but everyone is secretly doing the same math. You check your banking app more than your messages. You know your account number from memory. You move $200 into savings, then move it back 3 days later. At this stage, money isn't a tool. It's oxygen. Either you have enough, or you're already suffocating. And most days, you can't tell the difference. The first rule: at zero, your relationship with money is completely emotional. And emotional decisions compound faster than interest ever will. Then the raise comes. Not life-changing. Just $6,000 more a year before taxes. About $387 extra a month. For one afternoon, you feel rich. Then your car needs brakes. $900 gone in a single phone call. That's when you learn one of the harshest truths about money. Expenses expand to consume every inch of space you create. Eventually, you pay off your smallest credit card. $1,200 cleared. You stare at the zero balance screenshot for a long time. You send it to nobody, because nobody would understand why that image means so much to you. But it does. Because for the first time in your life, a number moved in the right direction because of a decision you made. That's the beginning. At 26, you hit $10,000 in savings for the first time ever. 5 figures. You check the account constantly that first week. Not from fear this time, from disbelief. You don't spend any of it. You just let it sit there. Because when you've never had money before, $10,000 feels less like a number and more like proof that maybe your life is finally changing. You begin reading about investing. Not motivation. Not hustle culture. Real books about how money actually moves. You learn what an index fund is. You open a brokerage account and stare at it for 3 weeks before investing your first $1,500. The market drops the very next day. You almost panic. Almost pull it all back out. But you don't. And that moment matters more than the money itself. Because that's the moment you decide whether fear controls your future, or you do. The shift happens quietly. You stop seeing money as safety, and start seeing it as leverage. By now you're making $68,000 a year. You've saved $40,000. You're contributing to retirement accounts. Doing everything people told you to do. Emergency fund. 401k. Avoid lifestyle inflation. You're responsible. Disciplined. And then one night, you run the numbers honestly. You project your future out 40 years. And something inside you changes. Because the ending number isn't terrible. It's just small. Enough to survive. Not enough to become free. This is the competence plateau. You've mastered survival, but you still haven't learned how to build. The second rule: a salary is a ceiling disguised as security. And once you see it clearly, you can never unsee it again. You start a side project, not a business, just something small you work on during weekends. It makes $400 a month, then $900, then $1,700. You tell almost nobody. For 14 straight months, every dollar goes back into it. Same lunches, same apartment, same car, but your net worth starts moving differently now. $80,000, then $110,000. And for the first time, you begin feeling the distance between earned income and scalable income. That distance is where leverage lives. 1 year, your investments make $3,800 while you sleep. You've had months where your side income beats your actual paycheck. Now you finally understand what an asset really is. Not theoretically, practically. Something that earns even when you don't. And slowly, your relationship with time begins changing too. You stop measuring life in hours worked. You start measuring it in systems built. Because every hour spent on something non-compounding suddenly feels expensive. At $150,000 net worth, you're 32. You own a rental property. A brokerage account worth over $60,000. a business generating $6,200 a month. And strangely, you still drive the same car. You stop talking about money openly. Not because you're hiding, because you notice how differently people react once numbers get involved. Some become envious, others dismissive. Neither reaction helps you grow. So you quietly keep building and quietly start saying no. No to expensive trips. No to draining relationships. No to business ideas from friends who confuse excitement with strategy. The shift. You stop using money to maintain appearances and start protecting capital to build options. Then comes $300,000. And something strange happens. Your money starts developing a personality. It begins resisting certain decisions and accelerating others. One investment returns $22,000 in 8 months. Another loses $9,400. Years earlier, that loss would have shattered you. Now, you adjust, reposition, keep moving, because you finally understand something most people never do. Wealth is not built by avoiding risk. It's built by understanding which risks deserve patience. The third rule: below $500,000, you are still buying assets. Above it, assets begin buying each other. And you can feel yourself approaching that line. At 36, your net worth reaches $920,000. You've restructured your business twice, exited one investment, rolled the profits into something bigger. Your days become more intense, not stressful, focused. You're sending emails before sunrise, running scenarios in the shower, thinking 3 moves ahead while everyone else is still reacting to yesterday. Then a job offer comes. $210,000 a year salary. 5 years ago, it would have sounded like freedom. Now it feels small. Your parents don't understand why you turn it down. You don't fully explain it. Because how do you explain to someone that certainty has started feeling more dangerous than risk? And then it happens. A random Tuesday afternoon. No celebration. No champagne. No cinematic soundtrack. You refresh your brokerage account, and the number reads $1,004,000. You stare at it quietly. You expected fireworks, some overwhelming feeling. But the truth is far stranger. For a few seconds, there's satisfaction. Then almost immediately, perspective. Because $1 million doesn't mean what people think it means. At a 4% return, it's roughly $40,000 a year. Not luxury, not escape, just the first layer of freedom. And that realization changes you. The shift. You finally understand that the milestone was never the destination. It was proof the system worked. You stop going to networking events, the startup mixers, the finance conferences, the happy hours where everybody talks about ambition, but nobody talks about sacrifice. You don't hate those rooms anymore. You've just outgrown them. The conversations you need now happen in quieter places. Smaller rooms, fewer people, no name tags, no pretending, just competence recognizing competence. At $2.3 million, money stops feeling emotional for the first time in your life. It becomes operational. You stop checking balances. You start thinking in allocation. Where should capital move? What's underpriced? What risk is invisible to everyone else? Your business generates over $4 million in revenue. Your investment portfolio crosses $1.6 million. You own rental properties with hundreds of thousands in equity. And the strangest part? The thing that finally feels luxurious isn't the money. It's time. Real time. You take a 3-week trip and disappear completely for 5 days. No emails. No calls. No urgency. Most people think wealth buys experiences. It doesn't. It buys the ability to disconnect without consequences. The fourth rule: wealth is not what you can buy. It's what you no longer have to tolerate. At $5 million, the game changes again. Now you're not working for money anymore. You're positioning capital. And the difference between those two worlds is enormous. One deal may return $800,000 in 18 months. Another may fail completely. You invest in both. Because sophisticated money isn't about certainty. It's about structure, about understanding how risks interact with each other. You begin meeting people worth $20 million, $50 million more. And you notice something unexpected. The truly wealthy aren't obsessed with winning quickly. They're obsessed with staying in the game longer than everyone else. Patience becomes strategy. Longevity becomes power. At $14 million, doors open that once felt fictional. Not celebrity rooms. Decision-making rooms. Meetings with family offices managing hundreds of millions. Private equity calls. Conversations where capital moves entire industries quietly. And for the first time, you realize you're not in those rooms because someone invited you. You're there because your judgment became valuable. That is a different kind of power. The fifth rule: at $10 million, your reputation becomes an asset of its own. It begins generating returns independently from your labor. Then comes the part nobody talks about. A company you invested in lays off 140 employees. You know the executives personally. 5 years ago, this would have felt morally impossible. Now, you review the numbers. Hold your position. Watch the margins improve. And the unsettling part isn't that you feel cruel. It's that you've learned how distance works. The larger the numbers become, the further your decisions move from their human consequences. Quietly, gradually, without announcement. At $30 million, you stop building income. You start building permanence, trust structures, foundations, systems designed to survive you. Your money now operates through frameworks, teams, agreements, strategies built over decades. The machine runs whether you wake up or not. And maybe that was always the point, the shift. Eventually, wealth stops requiring your presence, only your positioning. At $80 million, isolation changes shape. It's no longer loneliness. It's translation. The people closest to you can no longer fully relate to the scale of your decisions, your risks, your conversations. Not because you became better than them, because your reality became harder to explain. You think in cycles now. Infrastructure cycles, credit cycles, demographic shifts. You position years ahead instead of weeks ahead. And strangely, giving becomes one of the few things that still feels emotionally real. Not because of reputation, because generosity remains one of the few decisions untouched by optimization. The sixth rule: above $50 million, money stops measuring your worth. It starts measuring your reach. You're 61 now. Net worth, $94 million. Known exactly by 3 people. You haven't worked a traditional day in nearly a decade. But you never truly stopped working. Because at this level, work no longer looks like effort. It looks like influence. A boardroom. 5 people. Enough combined capital to reshape an economy. You speak for 4 minutes. Ask 2 questions. The entire room reorganizes itself around those questions. That's what real power looks like. Not loud. Not theatrical. Compressed. Quiet gravity. And somewhere tonight, there's a 24-year-old standing in a grocery store staring at a banking app. Balance, $1,247. He puts the expensive coffee back. Chooses the cheaper one. He thinks this story is about money. It isn't. It's about transformation. About the invisible distance between who you are when you start and who you must become to continue. Because compounding doesn't only happen to capital. It happens to habits, to discipline, to identity, to sacrifice. The machine never asks if you're ready. It simply opens every morning. And the people who keep showing up, patiently, consistently, without needing immediate rewards, eventually change. The money compounds. And so do they. The balance is $1,247. That's where it always begins.